I want to welcome everybody that's in attendance and those who are joining us online. If you would, please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Neil Lipsitz.
If it is your custom, please join in. Source of all wisdom, we gather today with a commitment to serve our community. Guide us in our deliberations with clarity, compassion, and integrity. Help us to listen deeply, respect each other's perspectives, and make choices that reflect the best for all. May our actions contribute to the peace and well-being of our city and all its residents. Thank you for the opportunity to lead and serve. Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, at this point of the agenda is for public comment. And this is on agenda items. The only one we have is Ms. Margot Ellis, 204 Battery Lane.
Good morning. Since returning from a conference held by the National Science Foundation in April, I've been holding monthly meetings with entrepreneurship leaders across the community to identify economies of scale with the hopes of filling the gaps that no individual organizations are meeting for the recovery and developing research projects to fund work empowering leaders to meet community needs. What I discovered is that there's a large disconnect between organizations servicing the community, and one of the biggest holes in our safety net is mental health care and an awareness of how to engage in an environment where the rules of conduct are often unclear and the perceived fear of cancellation for making mistakes is paralyzing to many. My question for the council is how much research has been done about the gaps in our safety nets related to mental health care? And if the answer to this is that no research has been done, would the council be willing to wait until the next session to vote on the final appropriation of ARPA funds to ensure that a thorough investigation and recommendations can be considered, especially related to mental health care and programs to restore lost hope?
Anyone want to address that? Thank you. I think I don't know if council's pleasure, but on the agenda right now, we're getting ready to approve that in the next item. So we'll take that into consideration. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move forward with the meeting agenda approval. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay,
That's the consent agenda?
yeah, no, this is the meeting agenda.
Agenda.
Okay, meeting agenda. Gotcha.
Any comments on the meeting agenda? Okay. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next is presentations. The City of Beaufort Municipal Elected Officials Institute Honor Roll presentation by Eric Buds from the Municipal Association of South Carolina.
Good evening, Mayor Cromer and members of Beaufort City Council. I'm Eric Buds, Deputy Executive Director of the Municipal Association of South Carolina. Since 1986, the Municipal Association has offered the Municipal Elected Officials Institute, which provides 20 hours of in-person and online training in best practices for municipal governance. It's my pleasure this evening to recognize Beaufort City Council as one of 11 recipients of the 2024 Municipal Elected Officials Institute Honor Roll. You are one of 11 out of 271 cities to receive that recognition. The Honor Roll recognizes councils that can count all seated members as graduates from the Municipal Elected Officials Institute. This accomplishment demonstrates Beaufort City Council's commitment to being informed and educated in efficient local government management. Congratulations on the achievement, and we look forward to presenting to you a plaque to recognize this achievement.
On all council?
Sure.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay, item number 6, proclamation proclaiming September 15 through 21, 2024 as Constitution Week.
Ready?
Yep.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, proclamation, whereas September 17, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, pardon me, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 15 through 21 as Constitutional Week. And now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Beaufort, South Carolina, hereby proclaims the week of September 15 through 21 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Beaufort to be affixed this 10th day of September, 2024. Signed, Philip E. Cromer, Mayor.
The members of the Thomas Hayward Jr. chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Beaufort City Council for recognizing September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. This week was set aside initially by President Eisenhower in 1956. The purpose of this week is to promote the study of the Constitution and educate people about the Constitution, and to remember that it was signed on September 17th, 1787. As the document which has preserved our way of life for the last 237 years. We would like to say thank you for taking the time to recognize this as Constitution Week.
Thank y'all as well.
Missy Thorpe is a former Navy person. We want to thank her for her service to our country. And she has been in charge of our Constitution Week. I am the regent this year of our chapter, and I want to invite all of you to join us on September 17th down at Waterfront Park. Bring your bells because we're going to ring the bells along with all the churches, hopefully in the city, to say, let freedom ring for the United States of America, that we still have a democracy. And thank you all so much for recognizing this week for us. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
What time is that on?
4 p.m.
Thank you.
at the Thomas Hayward bus.
We were so excited about that we forgot to vote on it. So we're going to go ahead and take a vote now. All in favor of the proclamation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next we have the consent agenda. We have a motion.
Motion to approve?
And seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah.
You do have discussion?
I do. So the first one was the monthly report for capital improvement program. Just a question for Kurt, if he's here. Oh, there he is. Maybe just clarification, but last month there was, under the commercial projects, there was a shell building, 351 Robert Smalls Parkway, where the permit was issued July 14th of 22. I did not see that on the reoccurring list of commercial items here, and I did see the addition of Aldi, which is 361 Robert Smalls Parkway. Was that the shell building, or what happened to the shell building 351 Robert Smalls Parkway?
That would be one of those, they haven't been occupied yet, the buildings that are in front of
Outbuildings?
Beaufort Station.
Okay,
One of those shell buildings still hasn't been occupied by any businesses yet, so.
okay, I saw it on last month's report and then it wasn't on this one, so I didn't know if there was any particular reason or if it became the Aldi or not.
No, but Aldi does have plans in, if it makes you.
Okay. Yes, I saw those meetings. And so this brings me to the second thing I was going to bring up. Maybe this would be helpful. We can go back and I do watch the meetings for, let's say, the Planning Commission where they talked about 23 Horton Drive or 1140 Reebok Road. Would it be too much of an inconvenience to just add what the board's, like a quick little note of what the board's decision was in these monthly reports? This way, when we're looking at it, we can see, okay, they sent it back for preliminary approval or with conditions, maybe not list each condition, but just like a quick note of what the board's decision was next to the line item.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want the HRB, the Planning Commission, and the ZBOA also on there?
Yeah, anything that's in here, any board or commission that's
Okay.
in here.
Sure, that's not a big deal.
Okay, perfect. That's it for community
One
development.
question I keep getting asked time and time again is when is Aldi's coming?
I mean, they have building plans submitted. I
It's
can't
on
tell you
them,
when
right?
I'll actually go forward with them, but yeah,
Okay, I keep getting asked everywhere I go.
it's approved, so we're just
Okay, it's on
waiting
them.
on them. So.
Okay, thank you.
Finance. So in the July 31st balance sheet, so last month, the report reflected $192,315 in the TIF2 fund. And this month's reflects $189,372, so a difference of the $3,000. I didn't see anywhere in here where there was an expenditure to reflect that. But I did see that the restricted cash or cash equivalents was the same as last month. So I was just wondering, first question, what was reflecting the difference of the two?
The cash from TIF two, there might have been, I have to look back, there might have been an expenditure maybe back in June. That may have not been shown up in the report from last month. That's now reflected in this July
Okay,
report, but let me look in a little more detail
okay.
on that. You can.
And then under the American Rescue Plan Act fund, it looked like there was, it looked like the numbers are still the same, they still match, but then there was $181,000 and $33 that was moved into due from other funds. So it was separated from the $4,927,268, whereas last month it was all under cash and cash equivalents. Now, 181,000 is under the due from other funds. So I was just wondering what the separation there
Yeah, I
was.
think those due from other funds, those are kind of some transactions between funds. I think these are some ARPA funds we're using for capital projects. So right now we're showing as a due from, and then you also see a corresponding due to other funds as well in the liability section. So there's kind of a due from and due to that kind of net out to zero.
Okay.
But
And then I saw the addition of the Amendment 5 under the Parks and Tourism. So I appreciate you adding that in.
Yeah,
That
good suggestion.
definitely helped me. So, and then that is all for finance. Fire, just real quick, Chief. So last month's report showed total personnel was 82, and then I saw that we hired 2 more. Would that mean that the total personnel we have is 84 now? Because it's still reflected as 82 here.
I think if you're looking at the spreadsheet as personnel assigned,
Uh-huh.
that's our positions. So those normally stay the same unless we were to add a position, which we haven't done. So we have assigned 55 positions, 18 volunteers, 9 part-time for a total of 82.
So those are
We don't-
positions, not filled
Not-
positions
right.
necessarily. Okay, understood. Off top, how many vacancies do we got?
We currently have 2 right now.
Even with the 2 that we just hired?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Perfect, thank you. That is it. And then Nate, the two that you introduced us to today, does that fill your vacancies? Or do you still have two vacancies? I see here you interviewed two vacant positions.
Those were the two that we introduced this morning.
So
Or
we
the
have no
secret-
vacancies on your front.
Public Works is fully staffed.
Okay, good to go. And then I saw that we, what was it? Maybe I didn't highlight it. We just bought 1,000 sandbags to kind of restock our inventory there. I was wondering if we had looked at any other barrier options for flooding at some point in time to determine if there was a better option out there. I've seen some plastic barriers that are on the market now that the reviews work better than the sandbag. So I didn't know if we had done any research in regards to what may work better and last longer. Have you done that yet?
Yes, sir. The 1,000 sandbags we ordered was to refill the stock that we donated to Beaufort County.
Okay,
And then we've also been looking into a flood gate that is for your doorway. And so for our buildings, we would no longer be filling sandbags and putting sandbags in front of our doors. This flood barrier gate would take that. There's multiple companies out there. We've investigated some, but we haven't took it any further as to purchasing it or seeing demos yet.
okay, nice, good to know. And then I was gonna ask you too, I didn't see on here, where are we at with the steps on Bay Street, the broken steps down there?
So I just spoke with the contractor today, and they're scheduled to have the concrete work done next week.
Okay.
But it's gonna take about 3 to 4 weeks to get the new handrails in.
Okay. So President Biden spent his life in government. There you have it. All right. So maybe should be done in next 3 weeks or so, completely.
Yeah, hopefully the broken concrete work and the redesign that we've worked with the contractors should be done hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And then the handrails, we've worked with Lise Sunderland with the Historic Foundation
Okay.
to try to implement some handrails that were more towards the some of the past designs. So that's what's going to take a little bit longer with the handrail.
Okay, got it. Understood. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, we need a vote. All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please identify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, minutes, capital projects workshop, August 20th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, any changes? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes of the work session and regular meeting of August 27th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any changes? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we move to old business. A, an ordinance approving the sale of real property located in the Beaufort Commerce Park and owned by the city of Beaufort, South Carolina to Dolnick Properties LLC. This is second and final reading. Scott.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Scott.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you just said, this is an ordinance to approve the purchase agreement for the sale of property at our Commerce Park to Dolnick Properties LLC for the purpose of building another spec building. We had first reading on August 27th, which was the previous meeting. Nothing in this agreement has changed between the previous meeting and this meeting. Do you have any questions?
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next is an ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan of the city of Beaufort to add a housing impact analysis as an appendix item to the housing chapter. This is second and final reading. JJ Savay,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all yours, JJ.
Right, good evening, council. I'm not gonna go into the full document here because we've reviewed this in many settings thus far, but this housing impact analysis provides a roadmap that can be used as part of our comprehensive plan for how we will address housing moving forward here in the city of Beaufort. Again, this is the second reading. Is there any specific questions from council regarding the housing impact analysis and adopting it as an appendix item to the existing comprehensive plan?
Thought it was a good appendix. Addition. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beaufort, South Carolina, Chapter 12, Section 7-12006, permitted uses of fees. This is second and final reading.
Motion to approve. Second.
JJ?
All right, council, this came to light during our review of our city ordinances and in completing the housing impact analysis. One of the requirements under the South Carolina Code of Laws that allowed uses of ATAX monies for housing workforce staff required updating our ordinances. This matter that you have before you right now and the next matter are just cleaning up the ordinances to directly reflect the language that is in the state code, rather than listing out exactly what uses these funds could be used for. It refers and links the reader directly back to the South Carolina Code of Laws, unannotated section 6-1-530, as may be amended from time to time. So it's a housekeeping matter, and it keeps our ordinances up to date with state code whenever it changes.
All righty.
Just one point of clarification real quick. So when you say links back, I know we had talked about it last time, but just for clarification again, that's a link that can be clicked on that takes them to that section in the code, or is it just
That's-
written out, this is the section in which you'd find?
That's correct, counsel. My understanding is that can be done in the website. You can't see it here in the red line version of the ordinance, but the plan would be to have a hyperlink that can be clicked. If that doesn't work, it gives the clear, you could copy,
Right.
paste, and it would
Okay.
pop up that statute.
Any other comment? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beaufort, South Carolina, Chapter 12, Section 7-13006, permitted uses of fees. This is second and final reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
JJ, you want to touch on that?
All right, council, this is the exact same matter that was before you just a moment ago, except that it updates our code 7-13006 to reflect the language in South Carolina Annotated Code Section 6-1-738 as may be amended from time to time. And that just has to do with the ways that the state allows us to use those funds.
Any comments, questions? Okay.
I have one question. So this is ATAX, right?
Yes, sir.
So in previous years on council, we would go through the whole review of how the ATAX revenues would be distributed among the organizations that applied for it. How does this connect there? What's the impact?
So it wouldn't impact that portion. That's one of the allocated ways that the funding could be spent under the South Carolina State Code. This just refers us directly back to those ways that the state says we can spend the money.
Same amount of money, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same money.
It's the same amount of money. It does not affect the monies at all. No, sir. It just takes out any need to constantly update if the South Carolina code changes. We would just refer back to the South Carolina code as opposed to potentially running into a situation where you want to allocate funds and you refer to the South Carolina code, but that may not match up to the current ordinance. So it just saves time in record keeping, really.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
No other discussion unless you have something, Jim?
I was just gonna say, I think it's important too, JJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is talking about our city collected A tax and H tax, but not necessarily the state allocated A tax funds. Those are separate,
That is correct. Yes.
right?
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is an ordinance approving a grant of a utility easement encumbering real property owned by the city of Beaufort, South Carolina to Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. This is second and final reading.
Motion to-
Second.
Motion is second. All right, JJ.
All right. Thank you, council. This is for a 6-foot water line and fire hydrant that has currently been installed at Southside Park. As part of the installation and the upgrades to Southside Park, Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority has agreed to take over ownership and maintenance of that water line and fire hydrant. This is to provide them with the easement to do that maintenance.
Any comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is an ordinance to amend fiscal year 24 budget for revenues and expenditures of the general fund and parks and tourism fund. Second and final reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Alan.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is for fiscal year 24, so this is our last fiscal year. These are adjustments for our revenues and expenditures based on our year-end actual amounts. This is second reading. These are additional revenues from business licenses and some grants, additional revenue and franchise fees, and some insurance proceeds as well, and interest. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about this. This impacts both the general fund and the Parks and Tourism Fund.
Any comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance to amend fiscal year 25 budget for revenues and expenditures of general fund, ARPA fund, and capital projects fund. Second and final reading.
Motion to approve.
And second.
Okay, so
Alan?
this is a budget amendment for fiscal year 25, the current budget amendment that we're in right now, our current fiscal year we're in right now. This is an additional grant we got for cybersecurity for $46,000. This also is our headquarters Fire Station 1 traffic signal that we're budgeting $150,000 for. Also for the Allison Road project, for the non-standard service fund, we're going to use general fund monies for that. And then also for ARPA funds, we're going to do $600,000 for construction of Phase A and Phase B of the Duke Street project, and $250,000 from ARPA fund for the waterfront part relief and platform consulting services. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about this budget amendment.
Okay, I know Mrs. Ellis had requested that we postpone this. Is there any entertainment on the part of council to do that?
I would entertain a discussion on the overall, what's being proposed here. So we could start there and see where it goes.
Sure, absolutely.
So at first reading, I requested an amendment for programs in regards to public safety. So I would definitely entertain a conversation in regards to supporting a program for mental health, as that's a major challenge that we're faced with, not just here, but in this country as a whole. With the understanding that these funds have to be committed with a contract by the end of this year. Mayor, if you're okay with it, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what Ms. Ellis is proposing in regards to a program, if there is an amount or a specific program that was being addressed, because I think at this point, we're so far along in the year that we have to be very clear about where these funds are going, because there's not going to be much time to figure it out. So if you'd want to invite her back up and see.
Yes, I will. I'll invite her. Ms. Ellis, you want to come back up and tell us exactly what you're requesting?
In the interim, Councilman Scaletti, if I could, just a reminder, next week, we're going to have a work session devoted to that very topic only. It's a special work session just to speak about the
Mental
ARPA
health.
funding and where those dollars are going.
On what again? I'm
ARPA
sorry.
funding,
Okay,
next week work session.
okay, so if we allocate this, does that, I mean, today, if we vote on it, that's fine.
You can always undo something you do by ordinance. You can undo it by another ordinance.
Okay.
So,
All right, Ms. Ellis, you want to explain what you are requesting of council?
Absolutely. So my name is Margot Ellis, and I've served in politics both in Washington, D.C., working on on Capitol Hill for Secretary Shinseki when he was the head of the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was one of his legislative aides to the Senate. I've also served in municipal politics. I was a commissioner for the city and county of San Francisco. So I have a lot of experience outside of Beaufort, but I'll be quite honest. Beaufort's been my home for 20 years. I've owned a house here, but lived all over the place. But for the last 4 years, this has been really, really home since the pandemic. But I haven't been coming to city council meetings, and I haven't really been very engaged. I am a daughter of the American Revolution, so I actually came 2 weeks ago to thank you lovely gentlemen for approving our bench. And that was when I first started scratching the surface of like, oh, ARPA funds, I haven't been paying attention to that. I think we've spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 on workforce development, but we haven't really invested much in the heart, right? A lot of people have been broken through this pandemic. A lot of people, we've seen 60% of Americans across the board are suffering from anxiety and depression to an extent that they actually need access to mental health care. Our current services for folks who are at risk and don't have the resources to be able to pay for care, they often can't get access to mental health care. I know that there's a number of people who have large bills over at Coastal. And so perhaps we would consider putting some money aside to help people get back on their feet and help to create some programming. I've been working with local leaders who oversee various entrepreneurship organizations around town, from the Beaufort Digital Corridor to E4All and other organizations that are focused on trying to help entrepreneurs. And I know this is a major issue, and one that when I started scratching the surface to see what homework have we done and have we done analysis, I didn't see anything there. I think it also would be a gesture of goodwill given the speed at which society is changing. A lot of people are terrified of this notion of being canceled and they can't say anything. And so to me, it's not just business as usual mental health care, but I think we really are moving at the speed of technology in America and really across the world. But I don't know that we've gotten the resources in place here in Beaufort to make sure that our folks are able to move at that speed without harming themselves, and to continue being good stewards of their businesses and what have you here in Beaufort County. So my strong hope is that you would be willing to give it 2 weeks until the next city council meeting, so I could continue to scratch the surface a bit more and come up with an actual proposal that has numbers about here's where I think that you should consider an investment. So while it is possible to roll things back, it's always easier to just take a pause and consider what may be out there before we press the button. And that was my sincere hope today.
Have you been in touch with the county about that? Because mental health in the county is pretty much under their bailiwick. There are ARPA funds.
I'll be honest, I'm at the very beginning of this research, which is part of why I asked what may have already been done that I don't know about. And so so early in my 2 weeks of trying to catch up with everything ARPA, I will admit I'm such a novice that I was embarrassed to try to come in here with a proposal that would have real numbers and the kind of thing I would expect if I were sitting in your seats for a recommendation. But again, my sincere hope is that you may be willing to give just another bit of time until the next meeting so that I could have more conversations and come up with a proper proposal.
What's the pleasure of council?
Scott, tonight, if we were to push this for, say, 2 weeks to our next meeting, would you be willing to work with Ms. Margot to see if there was a plan that we can identify for a program maybe that would support mental health? And I know you're at the beginning or the infancy of understanding how this could work. Is 2 weeks enough time to figure that out?
I think so.
But I'd be willing to take any more time you'd like to give me, Councilman.
Well, that's the thing is this has to be committed by the end of the year, and it can't just be committed in the budget. It actually has to have a contract attached to it or the funds expire.
Councilman Scalati,
Yep.
2 weeks is a work session. It's not a regular session. So
But we could always call a special session if we wanted to with even this item, so.
The work
the
session is in
opportunity-
1 week.
The opportunity would still exist. And I think this is much, I think it is that much of a priority. I can only speak for myself, but that's why I was advocating for an amendment last time. And it was in regards to public safety and supporting the Explorer programs that we had started up this year. to kind of, to grow those. But I think that this is an effort that's worth getting behind as well, because it's something that we can see has impacted our community. And like I said, it's a worldwide issue, but if we could do something to help have a positive impact, then I'm willing to wait that out and see if we can identify a plan.
The short answer to your question, Councilman Scaletti, is yes, I'm absolutely willing to work with anyone on that topic. However, the ordinance that you have in front of you is marking expenditures for priorities that council has already identified and agreed upon through your strategic plan. I'm also reluctant to engage in spending ARPA dollars on programs that will require perpetual care and funding beyond when we have ARPA dollars to support it, unless we have a plan to have the revenue stream to support those programs.
May I address that concern directly? I feel that this is a unique situation that we have with Corona. We know that there were a number of businesses that closed. You know, honestly, as I was trying to get smart on this, I was looking at Fed data and trying to figure out, as a true economist at heart, the difference between how many businesses were actually lost and how many came back. What I know for sure is that a lot of people were crushed in the middle, right? And there's a lot of people who are struggling to come back, and work has changed in such a way that they have something called the Great Resignation. And even companies that were really sustaining themselves well, like tech companies, had tens of thousands of layoffs. So there's this sense of disloyalty that exists, a sense that we don't trust each other and we don't have security in what we're doing. So I don't think that this is going to be an ongoing business as usual type cost. I do think that this is specifically targeted to precisely what the ARPA dollars were supposed to do, which is to address the immediate needs of the coronavirus. And I feel when I looked through the budget, the one area that there was absolutely no investment in was mental health care, at least for the city budget. So perhaps there's something more in the county, and I would love to work with you, Scott, and see what we could find, because again, I'm not here to suggest something that makes no sense. I appreciate your time, and I wouldn't waste it by throwing something out there that makes no sense, but it makes sense to me to give us 2 weeks or even 30 days until the next proper meeting, so that we could work together and figure out precisely a just-in-time solution that would get us back to the level of, you know, I'm going to be honest, when I first moved to Beaufort in 2004, it was a different city, right? I mean, Beaufort now has homeless people living downtown, which is something I couldn't have even imagined 20 years ago. We have a homicide crisis where we have people who are not only being killed, but we have a crisis of finding who the killers are. These are real challenges that I think are related to mental health and our change in society that nobody knows how to really adjust to. So I'd love to work with you, Scott, to talk about something that is very timely, precise, not ongoing, for us to heal the wounds that were created during the coronavirus and get back to the Beaufort that I met 2004.
In regards, I'm sorry, in regards to, you said about the mental health with the downtown homeless, we are addressing that. We do have somebody that works with them, I believe, do we not? Yes, and Chief Price, as far as the homicide rate, you've seen that go down quite a bit. Her staff has been unbelievable. I mean, you can't be everywhere at once, but if they do it, she's got them. So I am really in favor of keeping things moving forward with what we have right now, the budget. I mean, yes, I do agree mental health is a problem. The county usually provides most of the funding for that than the city. But I'm in favor of keeping things as we passed it in the first ordinance, the first reading.
Given if I understood what Scott said, is that we could give this some time and not lose the opportunity to obligate the funds and not lose the ARPA money. So I would be in favor of allowing some time for you and Scott, the city manager, to have a conversation. And then when we come back, we'll have a little more fidelity and clarity to make the decision.
Scott, we would push this off until the next formal regular meeting and then maybe address it at this next work session? Or does that give you enough time? I don't know if it does.
The next work session will be devoted to determining your priorities for the remaining ARPA funds that we have to be expended. And certainly, mental health concerns can be rolled into that discussion.
Okay.
But if we pass this tonight, there'll still be some ARPA funds that we could roll into that, correct?
That is correct. Yes, Councilman.
Okay. I'd like to get this passed tonight.
Where would those be?
That works.
Because my understanding was that the 600,000 and the 250 was the total remaining ARPA funds.
We have a capital project, Calhoun Street, which is no longer feasible to let a contract in this year before the calendar year is up. So that will free up approximately $863,000 in ARPA funds.
So there will be, even if this is passed tonight, there will be additional ARPA funding that could support an initiative that's being proposed, right?
That's correct, Councilman.
Okay. Because I was actually going to make an amendment to what's being proposed here in this ordinance, and it was going to be more so in regards to getting some better sound equipment for this room, because we've heard that numerous times, and so I think the opportunity exists for us to go ahead and do that as well. But if there's additional ARPA funds that we could pull from, I didn't realize that was going to be the discussion of our work session next time. So, okay, so it sounds like whether we either pass this tonight or not, I think that we have established a good understanding that you're going to work with Ms. Ellis on identifying a potential program or a path forward to support mental health, right? That's good.
Okay, with that in mind, I'm gonna call for the vote. All in favor of this ordinance to pass, please by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Okay, under new business, we have an ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Beaufort, South Carolina to add a new section 8-1010 in Part 8, Chapter 1 to prohibit through truck traffic on certain roads and highways in the City of Beaufort, South Carolina. This is first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Chief Price, all yours.
Good evening. Before you this evening is consideration for a through truck traffic ordinance. We received several concerns over through truck traffic going through our downtown historic district and over the Woods Memorial Bridge. As we always do, we conducted some research. And so we already determined that restricted truck traffic routes already exist. The signage on the routes were thoroughly sufficient and adequate, and other South Carolina counties and cities already had through truck traffic ordinances. And also the SCDOT Woods Memorial Bridge, we spoke with an engineer who had concerns of big trucks going over the bridge and the damage that they caused. Further, we contacted all the retailers, especially the big box retailers, I won't name names, that, unless you really want them, that would have this traffic through our town and also through the Woods Memorial Bridge. And what we determined was you had to have specialized software that took you around these truck routes. And we had our community response team out and to see, do we really have a problem? And it turns out that they had no problems pulling over people who were not adhering to the through truck traffic signs. As you know, the truck designation route is crucial because large multi-axle trucks pose a significant safety risk within our historic downtown area. And police are always about safety. So we want to make sure everyone, and particularly, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we have a lot of walkers downtown, right? And so limited sidewalks as well. So we want to make sure everyone's safe, and it's not suitable for the heavy truck traffic that we see. Such traffic can lead to safety hazards, increased traffic congestion, environmental harm due to foliage clearances, noise pollution, and damage to our historic infrastructure. So we were concerned with all these. So officers currently utilize section 565950, and that is obedience to signs. In your package, you'll see that we have a clearly designated truck route, but we've also delineated the route that we'd like to have that outlines the historic district to restrict the traffic through there. The current fine when officers utilize those codes is approximately $237.50 or as assigned by a judge. Our proposed restricted area, and we worked with, by looking at the other ordinances with the other cities, and we worked with the city attorney. Again, it's in your packet, but I'll just tell you. It's US Highway 21 Business, Boundary Street, Carteret, Sea Island Parkway between SC Highway 281, Rebaugh Road, and US Highway 221, Ladies Island Drive, and it includes the Woods Memorial Bridge. Also SC Road S6 Bay Street between South Carolina Highway 281 Rebaugh Road and US Highway 21 Business Carteret Street. It also includes any other designated South Carolina Department of Transportation signage included. The restrictions, as you can see, are medium and heavy truck traffics for dump trucks and tractor trailers. They cannot operate on the designated streets unless for specified business purposes. So if you're loading and unloading and you have actual business through there, that's completely fine. The exemptions would be emergency vehicles and local government vehicles, trucks that are detoured by local authorities or traffic control devices, personal pickups, passenger vans, and buses. The penalty as decided by the municipal judge in this case would be a fine up to $500 or imprisonment up to 30 days. You have any questions?
If you would explain to the public about through trucks, because some people will see 3-axle vehicles downtown, large trucks, and they're sort of going to a destination.
Yes. So each truck has a bill of lading. A bill of lading tells where it goes, where it's supposed to unload and where it's to load. So through trucks means that they are literally going down through historic Beaufort because it's the quickest, easiest way to get to possibly somewhere on Ladies Island instead of having business in there, being the historic district. Yes, sir.
So if one of these trucks is going to one of the businesses downtown in the historic district, and then their next stop would be across the bridge, say to, I don't know, Lowe's over, Walmart over there or something, they'd have to turn around, right, and come back to Rebaugh and go down. They can't go across the bridge. I guess.
Yes, sir. That is correct. Now, if you have business in the historic district, that's fine. Bring your truck through there. No problem whatsoever. You should go in and out your quickest route. So yes.
So I'm thinking that, if a truck,
If you had business and then you go down the Memorial Bridge, that's a different story. That's okay. You had business in the historic district. The preferred route, yes, sir, would be to turn around, go down Rebaugh Road and hit Ladies Island. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure there would be some understanding in there and some learning curves going. And trust me when I say we really have alerted all those businesses and had in-person meetings with them and send them to their truck carrier routes to let them know what's going on.
got it, thank you.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just looking at the route from Boundary to Bay Street on Reboat Road. So, is it wise to restrict it right in that section? It's not really in the historic area, on Reboat Road, that section.
Yes, it's not technically historic, but yes, to get that way. So
Okay.
if you want it changed or you have an amendment that you would like to propose to the route, I'm more than willing to entertain anything.
You already have the truck route set up.
We do already have the truck route
Okay.
set up.
That's
And
been-
by the way, it requires no additional signage. A part of our research was looking at the signage to look and see if it was adequate. It was more than adequate.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Chief Price, we got that done.
Thank you.
Looking forward to second reading. Next is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beaufort, South Carolina to add new section 4-1002 in Part 4, Chapter 1, adopting regulations for the combined use of utility poles for electric and communication wires in the City of Beaufort, South Carolina. First reading.
So moved.
Second.
JJ?
All right, good evening, council. This was discussed at our last work session. This was brought forward last year from Dominion Energy, a request that when they are replacing poles that can house wires, that the city have some sort of enforceable ordinance that would require other utility providers to reattach their wires to the new poles. This is, again, one of the many things we're working through with our ordinances to clean up those looks. As far as, I know in work session, there were some questions about how enforcement would work. Dominion Energy would be the primary person to keep track of this. They would notify the city if they had a violator, someone who was not willing to relocate their wires. We would give them the 90 days to do that, and then that would go through our codes enforcement to bring them into compliance. And again, this is just wires on poles at this point, but we're looking into other ways that we can consolidate utilities throughout the city.
Would it require them to remove unused poles?
This does not address that, but that is Dominion's intent here. They end up not being able to remove the poles that have the other utilities on them, so they just abandon those poles. The goal with adopting this ordinance would be to notify Dominion. Dominion would notify all of those other utility providers, give them the time period to come into compliance, and then
Right,
once those are moved over to the new poles, then to remove.
Right, once they
existing poles.
move everything off the pole, are they gonna be required to remove the pole is my question. I mean, the pole,
There-
or who is gonna get the pole out
I
of there?
believe Dominion.
That would
will
be
remove their-
Dominion's.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Dominion's intent, is to
Okay.
get those old poles out.
Okay, good.
Those are Dominion poles, though.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Okay,
council.
Thank you. Okay, next is item 11, public comment. This is on non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything they want to bring before council? Gosh, this is the first time. Wow. Hey, I love it. This is good. Okay, next we'll go to reports, city managers reports.
Mayor and council, first of all, this evening, I want to say congratulations to all of you for being on the honor roll. That's not a honor that many municipalities in the state of South Carolina can claim, and it's for voluntary education. You've all volunteered to get credentialed as council members, and I think that's to be commended. So congratulations to you.
First time I've been on an honor roll. So that's pretty good.
I don't really believe that, but I'll ask your wife and
Oh,
see.
it's
So.
true.
I want to say thank you to our communications manager, Kathleen Williams, and to our assistant city manager, JJ Sauvé, for the neighborhood meeting that we hosted this last Tuesday. And a special thank you to Memorial Hospital CEO Russell Baxley for attending that meeting and speaking to everyone about the hospital's new PATH program for employee development. And for those of you who don't know, PATH stands for People Achieving Their Highest. I want to say thank you to all the citizens and to Safe Harbor and for council members who attended the September 5th Marina Design Layout Charrette we had at Waterfront Park. We got some pretty good feedback from that, and we're still getting feedback because we have a survey on the street. It's available on our webpage, and we urge people to go take a look at that and offer their feedback to us. Tomorrow will be Patriot Day commemoration ceremony at 5:30 at Waterfront Park. That's an event that's co-sponsored by the Exchange Club and the city to commemorate the victims of 9/11 and the continuing sacrifices of their families. We want to celebrate some recent police department promotions. Officer Jacob Brainerd, Officer Lane Fontaine, and School Resource Officer Alexis Gallivan were all promoted to the rank of sergeant. I want to also let you know that the bid period for the request for qualifications for Waterfront Park Consulting Services closed on September 6th. We received 3 bids, and they're currently being evaluated by staff. I'm also pleased to let you know, and I can't reveal the name yet, but soon we will be able to, that we have made a selection on our capital projects director, which is probably why you see JJ smiling more than usual tonight. But we'll be happy to announce that just as soon as we can. We will have a special work session next Tuesday, September 17th, for the purpose of discussing ARPA funding opportunities and your prioritization of those opportunities with regard to the resources we have left. And lastly, but certainly not least, just a reminder, we've got the Beaufort Shrimp Festival coming up October 4th and 5th. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, for the mayor's report, first of all, I want to thank everybody that's attending this evening, both in person and online. I also want to thank the staff for all the work for the agenda and the reports and the public charrette that was done for Safe Harbor and for the First Friday event that was held, even if it was rainy, that some people turned out, so that was good. Since the last meeting, I spoke with the Rotary Club of Beaufort. I attended the Northern Regional Planning and Implementation Committee meeting. I met with Mr. Wendell Walden of the Coastal Carolina Scouts of America and their plans for the Low Country District. I mentioned also Safe Harbor, was attended the charrette there at Waterfront Park. I attended and spoke at the Green Space Committee meeting at the county chambers last Friday, and I went to First Friday that evening. So that's all I have, and I'll start on my right with Councilman Mitchell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo what our city manager said about the Patriot Day event tomorrow evening at Waterfront Park at 5:30, sponsored by the Exchange Club and of course, the city, honoring the memory of those we lost on and the 9/11 attack. Also, want to give a special shout out to Chief Price for visiting Penn Center with her officers this morning. I was privileged to be there with her. Also want to, in his absence, give thanks to Dr. Adams, director at Penn Center. I hope it was very informing, and the feedback that I saw, looking at body language and speaking to the officers as we were doing the tour and at the museum was very favorable. So thank you, Chief. Thirdly, I have been working with Penn Center, I think going back to 2017, with the efforts to help folks with the challenges with heirs property. And just want to remind everyone that the delinquent tax sale, some may call it sheriff's sale, tax sale, takes place on the first Monday in October annually. And the efforts that I, along with Ms. Luana Sellers of Bluffton, we've been conducting workshops to try to educate heirs property owners on how they can seek relief from that situation, because the short of heirs property is, it's nice if you're living on it, but the only thing you can really do in terms of leveraging it is, well, you can't do anything about leveraging it. You just have to pay the taxes. And if you don't pay the taxes, you lose the property. And that frequently happens. So just know, for everyone listening and everyone present, that delinquent tax sale is on the first Monday, which I think is the 7th of October this year. And Ms. Maria Walls, the county treasurer, has been wonderful. And Ms. Ebony Sanders, also the assessor, in terms of helping us to educate folks on how they can address their and get out of that heirs property situation. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Scaletti?
Yes. All right. So real quick, I just want to thank everybody that's here and that was attending our work session. I think some of what's coming out of establishing surveys is exactly what we need to be doing to garnish the input of our community on really all decisions, but especially some of these big decisions regarding the marina and the waterfront park. Hopefully it's something that we can build on to better engage our community. So I appreciate that and all the work the staff has done to put some of that in motion. This morning, I was able to attend the Ladies Island business meeting, and Representative Shannon Erickson was there. Two things that she highlighted, I think that was noteworthy for me, was a recent success to bring home $75 million to Beaufort County School District. And that is to work to address those in poverty and with special needs. And last year, I was able to attend a poverty simulator that was hosted by United Way. And I'm not sure how many people know this, but one of the things that was brought up through that simulation, or the education part of that simulation, was the fact that Beaufort has about 9% of its population in poverty. Jasper County is 19%. So that's a pretty substantial amount of citizens and families that are experiencing poverty. And I think it's often something that's overlooked. So, and that ties into our mental health. So I appreciate Ms. Ellis's effort to advocate for mental health. Hopefully this can be the start of a relationship that grows into something more. And then this past weekend, we started our Leadership Institute. I'm sworn to secrecy on that, but I can tell you that it was a very great event. Got to connect and meet a lot of new people that live here in our community and have a desire to be better leaders. So I'm excited to see how the rest of that plays out for the rest of this year and into next. It was a very interesting experience. On September 14th, I volunteered for the Poverty Simulator that's going to be here in Beaufort. That's again hosted by the United Way from 10 to 1. That's going to be at 1277 Reebok Road for anybody that would be interested. It's something that I attended before on Hilton Head, and it basically just allows you to, not that you could even begin to experience what it's like to live in poverty in a 3-hour period of time, but that's basically the idea of the simulation, is you go through and you kind of experience challenges that individuals in poverty would potentially run into. And so this time I'm volunteering to be on the other end of that, basically help with set up and run some of the stations. So it'll be interesting to see it from that perspective, but I think it just continues to bring to the forefront of my mind anyway, the importance of addressing poverty in our community. So looking forward to that. And again, that's September 14th from 10 to 1. That's all I have.
Okay.
You are going to love Leadership Beaufort, that's all I can tell you. I was honored to, as many of the other council members, attend the Port Royal Library opening. Big thank you to Councilwoman Alice Howard, who got that one going. Neighborhood meeting was there, Safe Harbor, same as everyone else. Today, I was honored to be at the Complete Student. It's a school on Reeboat Road and Southside Boulevard. And I spoke to the government class, and future of our country, I think, is looking good, seeing them. So it was an honor to be with them, very bright kids. And with that, I want to make a motion that we, pursuant to Title 30, Chapter 470, or excuse me, Section 70A1 of the South Carolina Code of Law, discussion regarding personnel, boards, and commissions, committees, that we go into executive session.
I have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're now in executive session.